Hello everybody, welcome to my garden. Today is the 17th of May and I have been trying to properly time recording a garden tour out here for 3 weeks almost. But the rain, as well as a sickness that I had, kept forcing me to push it back and back. But this morning it is not raining and I am awake and I don't feel terrible. I basically only have a cough left of the sickness. So since it's not raining this morning, then it's probably just a good time for me to go ahead and get it done, because it's been raining basically every day for at least a couple hours a day, and usually in the exact time frame that I would be able to be out here in the garden. So I will take what I can get and we will do a garden tour even though it's gray outside. So the middle of May for me here in southern Missouri, zone 6B, 7A, middle of May is usually when the garden really starts to ramp up. We start to see a lot of production of those spring crops like kale. I just harvested a bunch of kale and made a soup 2 nights ago. I have a lot of baby tomatoes starting to form on the vines. I've been harvesting tons and tons of herbs. And with how the weather is going, with the rain that the plants love and the weather that's just right in the pocket of temperature that all of the plants are happy with, everything's just growing so fast, basically. These tomatoes have been in the ground for I think about 3 weeks, maybe up to a month, and the peppers have been in the ground for about 2 to 3 weeks. About a week ago, a little less than a week ago, I removed all of the mulch from every single one of these containers and then added some blood meal, bone meal, and worm castings to the top, just to top dress as an amendment. The blood meal and bone meal were both like granular, not powder, so they'll dissolve slower. That's just to keep my plants happy with nitrogen, honestly. I'm pretty happy with how the garden's looking already. That sunflower is almost touching the trellis and I didn't even plant that. It makes me so happy. Alright, let's get to the tour. So this is where I was standing. I just turned the phone around and directly onto this direction. So this is the main garden. And then I also have a greenhouse over here. There's a tray of plants on the ground. And then this table that my love bug made for me that has some tomatoes and stuff on it. And that is my compost bin. All of this is mostly empty containers. That green one has rainwater that I've been using to water the plants in the greenhouse. 2 old dead pepper plants and just some empty containers over there that I need to clean up. We will start the tour right here. Okay, so in this front corner bed, this is south facing, so behind me is north and that's east, so this is the northwest side of the garden technically. And in this bed we have a nasturtium. This is an Alaska variegated nasturtium. I had this kind last year. Aww, there's a little flower on it. Yay! That'll be my first nasturtium flower. And then with the nasturtium, we have 2 Norwood Miners tomatoes. That would be this one here. I let my tomatoes usually have 2 big leaders, so that's 1 tomato. And these 2 are another tomato plant. I haven't strung everything up yet, just because they weren't quite tall enough that everything was falling over. I have strung just those 4 plants, or 4 leaders rather, because they were starting to actually fall over and be too tall. Right here, we've got some pansies. I bought these pansies at Hirsch back in the fall, and they came back beautifully this spring and are going great. In this next container here, we have Dr. Wychee yellow tomatoes, which is my favorite tomato. So we've got 1 plant here and 1 plant there, both of which have 2 large leaders on them. And then here in front of them is a Hopi black dye sunflower that I started in the greenhouse and planted out in here. So you can see the difference probably with how thick and green that one is versus this one. That one wanted to grow there. It just decided to grow there by itself with almost 0 intervention from me, just fertilization. So this one's getting thicker, but it's not quite caught up to the other yet, and the flower is starting to head up. You could barely see inside of it actually already. And on the other side of these 2 tomatoes, just down there, move this leaf, Right there, that is an emerald everleaf basil. I tried to just interplant herbs with my other things. Obviously, I grow in containers, so it gets difficult to give everything its own individual space. And yes, I do realize that my planting space, like the distance between my plants, is less than what is recommended. Once again, that is because I don't have the space to give everything that exact space. And it does mean that they use the nutrition a lot faster, but I just liquid fertilize them to make up for that. In this next container here, we have Castelluto Genovese tomatoes. These are the ones that have already been strung up because they were starting to get super tall and fall over. So I think 2 days ago I strung them up, and here's proof that they're growing fast, because if I did it 2 days ago, how is this 5 inches not wrapped? There we are. And then this one too. These ones have a couple of leaders that I did not tie up yet. I have not decided whether or not I'm going to let them be crazy and just have a bunch of leaders, or if I'm going to restrict them down to 2 to 3. So I'm not sure yet, but those tomatoes are growing very, very fast. They're almost as tall as that sunflower now. That's less than a foot of space difference. Down here underneath the tomatoes, we have giant noble spinach that I just direct seeded here in the container, and there's some over there as well. I just kind of chaos seeded them in here, and a lot of them popped up. I'm very happy about that. I overseeded because I know that there are bugs and slugs and stuff out here that want to eat all of my nice baby greens. And then I put them under the tomatoes because spinach gets too hot and will bolt here in the summer. Missouri is consistently inconsistent with its weather, so even though it's 70 degrees out here today, it might be 95 degrees tomorrow. I just don't know. So those tomatoes will provide some shade and some cooler understory temperatures for those spinach, and hopefully they'll stay alive as long as possible. And then back behind these spinach and tomatoes, we have this pansy, which is kind of being covered by other tomatoes. And this is a Brushstrokes Viola pansy from Baker Creek that I started from seed. And they are a lot bigger of plants than I thought they would be, but the flowers are super tiny and cute. Those are edible, by the way. Pansies are edible flowers. These are a new variety of tomato for me this year. So are the Norwood Miners. The Norwood Miners and these, which are, these are the Napa. These are Napa Rosé cherry tomatoes from Wild Boar Farms. And that's the same place that those Norwood Miners tomatoes are from. I have 3 of these in here. They are cherry tomatoes, so I was willing to put them a little closer. And my cherry tomatoes, I don't tend to trim all of the suckers off. I just kind of let them go because they produce so much more fruit if you just let them go. It's more wild. It might be harder to see the fruit, and you might not have as good of airflow, but I do what I can here and there to get what I need out of my garden. So a good few of these suckers might come off, but a lot of them I'm just going to let them go ahead and stay there. So these are Napa Chardonnay cherry tomatoes, and they have little tomatoes on them. So cute. So cute. And then I did just direct seed some lettuce in the bottom of this container. I only saw 1 lettuce plant come up and it died, so I guess I don't get to have lettuce unless I seed it again, but it was Gustav's salad lettuce. And then just behind these tomatoes, along with this little flower insert thing, is another one of the pansies that I got from Hirsch in the fall. The reason I say that I got them from Hirsch in the fall is because I don't know what variety they are. I just know I got them from Hirsch, so that's what I'm telling you. Okay, moving right along here, we've got this container that has 3 tomatoes in it, and these are the Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes. I grew these last year, and I didn't have a lot of luck. They produced some fruit, but they took a really, really long time to ripen, and they grew much slower than all of the other tomatoes I had. I had them over there last year, where they probably didn't get as much sun because of the blockage from these trees and these trucks. So I moved them a little bit this direction in hopes that they would receive more sunlight and be happier. I guess we will find out. But the real reason that I continue to grow them is because my love bug is of Italian descent, and his Italian grandmother grew tomatoes that looked like what these look like when they're ripe. I'll put a picture up somewhere. These tomatoes in my garden made him so happy, and he doesn't even like tomatoes, and he actually enjoyed eating these ones. They're pretty sweet. The skin is pretty soft, so I basically have to grow them now. I don't have a choice anymore. Oh, there's a good one. Okay, so underneath the Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes, we have a mesclun lettuce mix that I just direct seeded in here, and that's what all these little guys are, and these little guys. I put them everywhere, but I guess they only germinated here, but that's fine. Also in this container, we have English thyme as an understory plant. Oh, here's some more lettuce. Nice, but we have English thyme over here, which has grown a lot since putting it in. And here we have an apricot lemonade Cosmo, which is a flower. Sorry if it's hard to see. It's this right here is the flower. And that's all in that container. Now we've gotten to the corner. In this container we have 2 tomatoes and 1 kale plant. These are Thorburns terracotta tomatoes. This plant, or this variety rather, produced quite a few tomatoes for me last year, and they weren't as watery as a red tomato. And they're not very huge. They're kind of small, but they taste pretty good, and it already has a few tomatoes growing on it. So these are like they're called Thorburns terracotta because they're like a terracotta colored tomato. Last year, I think I only grew 1 of these plants, and this year I have 2, so hopefully I'll be able to actually give you guys a good visual on how it grows and how it tastes and everything like that. This kale plant right here is a Nero Toscana kale, also known as dinosaur kale, also known as lacinato kale. So these leaves, how they have the actual kale, like a lot of kale plants will have this stem in the middle and won't have any leaf structure on the outside, whereas these have leaf structure down the whole thing, and they get really long, slender leaves. Like I said, I just harvested from my kale plants a couple of days ago, so they don't have very many leaves right now. You can see where I cut. These tomatoes are getting tall enough that they are going to need string soon. Here in the next container, we have 1 Nero Toscana kale, same as that other kale we just saw. And then I direct seeded Marketmore 76 cucumbers. I did 3 of them, but only 2 survived. 1 was eaten by roly-polies, so this is a Monica cucumber, and that is a Monica cucumber. And this is a sprouting broccoli. So as I said before, Missouri is consistently inconsistent with its weather. So broccolis, cabbages, cauliflowers, heading things like that, I've not been able to grow in the springtime because I have to wait until it's warm enough outside that they're not too cold, but then they take 120 days to mature into heads. So 120 days from when it's warm enough outside for them makes it too hot, and then they just bolt and become flowers. So last year I had a lot of broccoli plants just bolt and turn into flowers. So this year I removed all of those spent plants, which is that pile of stuff right there, and I just put 1 sprouting broccoli in the garden for springtime to see if it was cool enough for long enough for it to actually produce anything, because I've never gotten to harvest my own sprouting broccoli. It is very difficult to time cool weather crops here. So that's why there's just 1 single sprouting broccoli. Hopefully this sprouting broccoli will actually do something, because I've given it the space. I mean, it looks really nice. It's really green and dark. A couple of these leaves have like cabbage holes, but that's something you have to deal with here in the spring. There's lots of moths and caterpillars and things like that. Okay, in this next container we have lemon cucumbers. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. of these little lemon cucumbers that are now making true leaves. Gorgeous. And then this is a bush of oregano. I actually harvested off of this a few days ago, and I have 6 bundles of oregano hanging in my kitchen. So I'll just have to trim this back and gift it, I guess, because I have tons. Because I have that oregano bush, that's an oregano bush, and that's an oregano bush. And I in no way need that much oregano. I could probably remove one and be fine. Next container, here's a good example of what I was talking about. So this has a stem, but not nearly as much like leaf growth on the edges. And this is dazzling blue kale. So they have wider leaves, thinner stems, and not as and shorter leaves. Shorter, wider, and thinner stems. This is what I mean. These little guys are there in the springtime. No, thank you. In with this dazzling blue kale, we have muncher cucumbers. Oh, no, Monica cucumbers, sorry. We've got 1, 2, 3 of the Monica cucumbers, and then over here is an emerald everleaf basil, so another basil plant. Of course the squirrels dug in my containers. They can't leave my stuff alone ever. It's not in their nature. Stick it back in there, I guess. Hopefully this one lives. Here we've got Richmond green apple cucumbers, and I've got 1, 2, 3 of those that I'm just now realizing I planted pretty close together. I should have put one over there, but that's okay, because they will trellis up behind this kale and be up on here, so they'll get sun eventually. It might just be a little bit slow growing at first. And then with that is this another dazzling blue kale, and then a Brushstrokes viola pansy from Baker Creek that I started from seed. I don't know why I often specified that my flowers were started from seed. Like, I guess it feels more impressive, but let me think about it. 95% of what is in my garden right now was started by me from seed. So when I say started from seed, it's just because, like, flowers are harder to grow from seed. They're more expensive, they take longer to germinate, they have more strict light, heat, and water requirements than vegetables do per se. Almost all of this was started by me from seed, save for a snapdragon plant, my strawberries. I have an iris in the garden that I didn't start from seed. I got it from a friend's house and it had roots and stuff, and I plucked it in some soil. And then my river flower and the Hirsch pansies, I didn't start. I bought them from Hirsch, obviously. So a handful of things I bought, but 90% of what's in here I started from seed myself. Okay, we just did this container with the Richmond green apple cucumbers. Now we're gonna skip to this table over here, because these miniature tomatoes are doing the most for me right now. These are Orange Hat Dwarf Cherry Tomatoes from Baker Creek. Started from seed, obviously. And they're supposed to have a plethora of tiny orange tomatoes on plants that are about 10 inches tall. And as you can see, that is exactly what we have. So I am very happy with these tomatoes over here. These are an excess of cherry tomatoes that I had, and my mom took a lot of them, but I thought I might plant a few more because I have some empty containers, so I just kept them here. This one obviously died. Those ones hopefully I will be able to plant out before too long. And then down over here, oh my goodness, I haven't even seen this. This Bells of Ireland actually has little bells on it. Oh my gosh. A lot of these didn't even germinate for me, so the fact that one is actually flowering, that's so cute. We've got some amaranth in here that's starting to produce tiny little flowers, and then quite a few zinnias and a couple cosmos. Oh, this one is coreopsis, so we've got a basil in here. This is just like a mixture of random stuff that I had left over, basically. In the greenhouse, there's a couple things, but it mostly looks sad, so bear with me. We've got lemon balm, catnip. Then right here, we've got thornless blackberries that my parents bought and gave to me. This is just grass growing out of some containers that didn't germinate what I wanted to germinate in them. What is this? This is a slug hanging by a string? What the heck? Get out of here. So in here we have some more cosmos, some more bells of Ireland, basil, zinnias. This is parsley. We've got sweet alyssum and also pincushion flower. We've got some chamomile, lavender. This one just sprouted the other day actually, and it didn't even have a tag in it, so I think it is lavender or rosemary. I'm not 100% sure. And then same as this one and this one, it could be thyme, lavender, or rosemary. I'm not sure. They just sprouted. I've got more oregano, which I obviously don't need. This one's lavender. These are chives. We've got nasturtium, one single tomato over here, some more cosmos, some straw flower, sweet alyssum, and this was cilantro that bolted, and then I stopped taking care of it because it bolted anyway. Another slug hanging from a string. Are you serious? Why do you do this? And then in that right there, I just made myself a hanging basket of it's amaranth and 2 different kinds of nasturtiums. I didn't know that amaranth got so tall, so I think that might have been a mistake, but we live and we learn, right? Now back from the table and the greenhouse over to where we left off. These are strawberries, as well as these. I don't know exactly what kind. Most of the strawberries I have, my mom bought from an auction. And they've been being ruined by these little bugs. They're called like box elder bugs or something. And they just sit on my strawberries and eat them. So that's rude. Often when they do that, I just pluck them and put them in the container so they can just eat the strawberry, not off the plant. Here's one that I can have. Oh, this one's dark. Can I guarantee that a bug didn't touch this? I sure cannot. Am I gonna eat it anyway? Absolutely. Oh, that's probably one of the sweetest ones I've gotten out of the garden so far this year. In the garden, we call this breakfast. That one was sweet too. Those are getting much sweeter. I actually ordered a green stalk during their Mother's Day sale, and that should be here next week sometime. And I plan to repot a lot of these strawberries, or all of them really, into the green stalk so that hopefully they don't have as much bug pressure. All right. Now we've gotten to the peppers section of the garden. In this container we have, this is a jalapeno. This is a Sugar Rush peach pepper. This one is a Sugar Rush peach pepper. And this one is, not wanting to tell me. This one is a datil pepper. So this datil pepper is the spiciest one that I have, followed by the Sugar Rush peach, and the jalapeno I just needed a spot for it, so, and I only had one, so it slid right in there. These with it are zinnias, specifically this one's cut and come again zinnia, and this one is peppermint stick zinnia, which is the one that looks like there's blood on it, and that I love. So this container is 4 peppers and 2 zinnias. This next container has a little chive plant, a Hirsch pansy. This is a peppermint stick zinnia as well. And then the peppers themselves. This one is California, oh, these are both California Wonder bell peppers. Here in the front row, we have the iris that I just pulled out of my friend's yard and he said I could have. These are soft-neck garlic. These are the ones that I bought at the grocery store, and this container had the small cloves in it. This black container here, this is my river flower that already bloomed once this season, and I think I can pluck these off and it'll probably create more blooms. I'm just unsure. See, because there's an unopened one. I'm unsure if I have to pluck them off or not, so I'm just going to leave it for a week or two and see what happens. But that is my river flower. And then right next to it is an Alaska mix variegated nasturtium. It's the orange nasturtiums that I had last year. Oh, and a big old weed. These guys. And then these two peppers here are Sunbright bell peppers. I have another chive plant right there, as well as all these little sproutlets are purple plum radishes. My mom loves radishes and she told me she wanted more, so I've been planting radishes for her. This next container of garlic is the early Italian purple garlic from Baker Creek that I planted on November 1st. It's a soft neck garlic. I didn't get perfect germination, or some died because this section was exposed to more cold air during the winter. Behind it here in this one, we've got a Serrano chili pepper and a Serrano chili pepper. This is a pansy from Hirsch that's not doing as well as the other ones for some reason. And a zinnia. The zinnia is a queen lime orange zinnia. And then this fluffy guy right here is Black Knight scabiosa, otherwise called pincushion flower. I've never grown that. These garlics here are the only hardneck garlics that I'm growing. It is called Music from Baker Creek that was planted on November 1st. Hardneck garlic is less frost tolerant, so typically in Missouri we grow softneck garlic, but I really wanted to try garlic scapes, which, as you can see, it has produced. 3 or 4 days ago, I cut one garlic scape off of every garlic plant that I had here. I haven't used them yet, but I'm very excited about it. These peppers are... This one is a yellow banana pepper. Okay, well, this one's a yellow banana pepper. I cannot find the tag for this one, sadly. This one is a yellow banana pepper. And this one is a Craig's Grande jalapeno. So I believe this is a jalapeno. 2 banana peppers and 2 jalapenos. This last container of garlic is large cloves of garlic from garlic that I bought at the grocery store. So these are the large cloves, and in that black container are the small cloves. This is a dead lavender plant. This is chocolate mint that has been coming back from last season. And let's skip over to this big container here. I've been having a terrible, terrible problem with ants in this container. Anytime I dig around the edges at all, there are thousands and thousands of little ants and eggs. So I have been just not planting very much in here because I don't know how to get rid of them without getting rid of everything that I don't want to get rid of. And I don't want to put the soil in something else and then the ants be in there. So I'm kind of just seeing if they slowly dissipate as it gets warmer. The only thing I did plant in here is sunflowers, 1 kale, and 1 pansy. So the sunflowers, we have a lemon queen sunflower, Hopi black dye sunflower, a lemon queen sunflower, and then a Hopi black dye sunflower. And this is Nero Toscana lacinato dinosaur kale. And these are the pansies from Hirsch that continuously fall over. All right. So now there's nothing in this big container that's underneath the mint. And then this container here, we've got 1 big tomatillo plant and then an English thyme. This is not the Alaska nasturtium, it's the other one. It's orchid flame nasturtium is what this one is called. And then we've got an apricot lemonade Cosmo that got broken at some point, I guess, and has 1 flower on it. And then that back there is a lavender queen butterfly pea. Not a sweet pea, a butterfly pea. Sweet peas are toxic to eat, butterfly peas you can eat, and they produce a natural food dye. So if you make a tea, put butterfly pea in it, it'll be purple. You can squeeze lemon in it, and it turns blue. All right, we're getting through it, guys. In this container, we have one more tomatillo, which actually has tomatillos on it. Not nearly ready, but cute. Love them. And then one baby little rosy rosemary. Oh, these are Rio Grande Verde tomatillos, by the way. And I also planted Gustav's salad lettuce in this container to no avail because it is not popping up. This next container, we have another Rio Grande Verde tomatillo. Then we have a Cosmo. I'm not sure exactly which color this one is, to be honest, or which variety. So which color? Oh, here's a tag. This one is Apricot Lemonade Cosmo. And then this is Slow Bolt Cilantro, which, where I live, is not so slow to bolt. Obviously, I've been having to pick off the flowering stalks every few days. Then these little guys here are Detroit Dark Red Beets. And I think this little guy is Love in a Mist Midnight Nigella, but I cannot seem to locate its tag, so I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I think it's Love in a Mist Midnight Nigella, that one. And then obviously more little beets over here. And I thought I had beets over there too, but I guess they said no. This next container is the one with the giant sunflower in it. It is so close to touching the trellis up here. And it does not even have a big flower yet, which means it's still gonna get taller. That's gonna be the biggest sunflower I've ever grown. My hands smell like cilantro now. I love cilantro. Right here, there's another slow bolt cilantro that I've also been picking the flowering stalk off of. And then two peppers. These are Anaheim peppers, which are looking much better since planting them out fully. Oh, this one has a tiny pepper on it. Hee hee hee. And then cilantro right here. And we've got a Genovese basil just over there. And then obviously the giant sunflower. Here in this container, we have Lesia peppers, which are supposed to be really good. And one of them has two big old peppers on it already. One has a slug on it, gross. And then this right here is slow bolt cilantro. And then all of these little tiny guys sprinkled around, even over there, are French breakfast radishes. French breakfast radishes only take about 25 days to get big enough that you can eat them. So I know that there's a lot in there, but those will be able to come out fairly soon. Now we are here to this second oregano bush that I pointed to earlier. So that is oregano. It's Italian oregano, actually. And it is pushing out this little parsley plant. These two peppers, both of which are habanadas. So a habanero that has been bred to have no spice. And for some reason, all of the bugs love these plants. Look at how many holes are in the leaves and stuff, and there's little eggs on them, and there's little poops on them. This one especially is just not doing good. And then direct seeded in this container, we have Detroit Dark Red Beets just planted around here. This container does not look very full because it is not very full. This is an early yellow straight neck squash. And here I did plant an Italian striped zucchini, but I don't even think it came up. I didn't see it at all. Here is another hanging basket. The basket matches the one back there in the greenhouse. And this one has an Alaska variegated nasturtium, an orchid flame nasturtium, a dwarf rainbow sweet alyssum, and an amaranth, which I now know is probably going to get way too tall to be in that container, but it's okay. Okay, my garden has a lot more plants than it did at the end of last year, so this tour is taking me longer than expected, and I have to be at work in 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to do the last 10 containers later on my lunch break or something, so I will see you guys in just a bit. Okay, it's been 2 days since the first little portion of this video, but I didn't have time to finish it, and now I do. So let's finish these 10 containers. In this one, we have 3 straight 8 cucumbers, and then a pansy from Hirsch, which is being eaten by lots of bugs for some reason. And this is a Queen Lime Blush Zinnia that I have topped, so it is now sprouting from the edges, and that's also being eaten by a lot of bugs for some reason. Here we have flowering cilantro, because it was 85 degrees yesterday and supposed to be 88 degrees today. Just behind that, we have an amaranth with a potato beetle on it, and I've heard that amaranth is a trap crop, so that's why I've put it in my garden. Then just behind the amaranth, these are Martino's Roma tomatoes. So these are determinate varieties of Roma tomato, meaning they're going to grow to a certain height, produce a bunch of tomatoes, and then I'll have to chop them down and they'll be done. For example, there are already some tomatoes on it right there. So those are the Martino's Roma. Oh, also on these, I already removed a couple of suckers, but that's because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't going to remove any suckers from these to have them just produce as much fruit for me as possible, since they are in a determinate variety. Here next to them in this container, we have 3 more cherry tomatoes. They are Napa Chardonnay. Over there, we already saw the Napa Rosé. These are Napa Chardonnay, also from Wild Boar Farms. And then in with them is just a parsley plant and a weed. Here we have another container of strawberries. These will also be removed and then replanted in the green stalks when it comes. And I did get a confirmation email a couple of days ago saying that the green stalk is on its way. This container and this container, oh, and that container are all onions. I have Australian brown onions and yellow of Parma onions. But sadly, I waited much too long with my onions in the 2-inch by 3-inch Bootstrap Farmer containers, and now they are terribly unhappy. So I don't think they're going to get really big, but you know, it happens. This is my first year growing onions, so I'm not too sad about it. I mean, I'm pretty sad about it, but you know, it is gardening. It is life. I don't always do things perfectly the first time, and sometimes things get stuck in their containers for way too long. With this one, I just have a dwarf rainbow sweet alyssum, and then this is some catnip, a parsley plant, and a nothing, just sitting in the container. This container here is a dwarf snapdragon, which only has a couple of blooms on it right now, but about 2 weeks ago had a ton of blooms on it. Oh, this whole thing was just covered in red, and now there's a lot of new blooms. Behind the snapdragons, we've got 2 more tomatoes, and these again are Martino's Roma tomatoes, so the same variety as over there. Determinate means determined height, only going to produce a bundle of fruit and then basically be done. So not trimming these, and these ones are actually needing to be trellised up. They're getting pretty big. Yeah, they're just about as tall as the other ones that are already trellised, so that'll be a tomorrow project for me. Right here, this oregano has taken over almost the entirety of this container, but there is other things in there with it. I need to cut this back. Oh my goodness. There is 2 tomatoes in there. This one is actually a couple of tomatoes. It's because this is a pole cherry rainbow blend, so there's multiple tomatoes in there. And this one is a sunrise bumblebee cherry tomato, which is my favorite cherry tomato. And after being at the sale, that's the only one I had left. So I might have to start a couple more of those from seed soon so that I can have more. And then last container, oh, there's a bumblebee. In this last container, we have a parsley that has been bolting really terribly, but I've had this plant in for 3 years, and this is the first time it's bolted, so I'll probably have to remove this and replace it with another one, but I do have backup herbs in my greenhouse. And then with the parsley here is 2 tomatoes. These tomatoes are the San Marzano Roma tomatoes, which are a very popular Roma. Again, Roma tomato meaning it is a determined height, They're gonna set a lot of fruit all at once and then basically be done, and I'll have to chop them down. These are also the best tomatoes for sauce making and salsa making, so I wanted to include some in my garden this year. Also, within the 2 days, these nasturtiums have bloomed. Yay! I love those. Those are gorgeous. Nasturtiums are edible. Almost all the flowers that I grow. I'm only not saying all because I'm not 100% sure. Most of the flowers that I grow are edible flowers. Oh, we've got some dew droplets. I love seeing dew droplets on my plants. It's just so pretty. Alright guys, that's about all I have to show you for right now. The garden is in that mode where it is just springing to life for the summer. I actually have some more empty containers that I need to fill up. In which case I'd be able to plant more things, but I don't have them filled yet. Tomorrow starts my weekend. Yes, my weekends start on Monday. It does suck. Alright guys, I really appreciate you guys coming along in my garden, and I hope you loved the tour. The garden definitely looks better right now than it did this time last year, and I'm very, very excited about it. I am very, very close to 1,000 subscribers, so please, if you haven't hit that button already, go ahead and do it if you want to come along in my garden for more. Alright, I gotta go to work now. I'll see you guys on the next one.